I'm your host. This is Adam Messer, and this is the Adam Messer Show. Excuse me, I've been under the weather all week, and I have been having to live off of cough drops. So today, I thought it'd be kind of a neat little change up. You have heard this man before on our show several times, and I've been on his show a couple of times. And his name is Matt Lostaglia. So, Matt, welcome to the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
It's always good to come back and be able to sit down and have a conversation with you, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude, I am so stoked about you being here. And just to preface it, so yesterday, y'all, I get a text message saying, hey, man, I'm going to be in town because you live in Hinesville,
Yep.
right? And I live in Savannah. And you're like, hey, man, I'm heading into town. I got to do some things with the kids. Do you want to meet up? And I was like, yeah, why not? So we met up at the little coffee shop over in Pooler, the front porch, one of the little favorite hot spots that we go to.
Love that spot.
Yeah, and we were hanging out, and then, you had to go. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Stuff happens. I mean, because I have kids, too. Stuff happens. And so I was thinking, oh, man, I was looking at my schedule for today. And I was like, oh, I don't have anybody booked for the show. So, Matt, would you like to be on the show today? And I was, you're like, yeah, of course. So this is awesome. So this, serendipity, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, would you mind, sir, for the folks playing at home for the first time with us today, would you mind giving us a little intro to yourself?
Sure, yeah. So for the past 10 years, I've been in the Army doing that thing, and it was going extraordinarily well, and I'm working through kind of a transition phase to get out now. But over the past year, I got really excited and motivated to expand myself in my endeavors to the more civilian private sector and just diversify who I am, and a lot of those passions derive around being able to find ways to help people. And so what I wanted to do was bring on and just talk to business owners and entrepreneurs, and that was kind of spurred by the fact that
that's on your show, Burn Your Boats, right?
I had already done that.
Yeah,
I had been doing it naturally, just meeting people and talking to them and doing what essentially boiled down to makeshift interviews on the fly. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, you know what? I've always wanted to have a show. You know me. I enjoy talking.
I'm a talker. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
I'm a talker.
So I've reached out to the people that I'd already had these conversations with, and I was like, hey, would you be interested? And they said, yeah, sure. So I, basically just started recording these conversations with the hope that, I could provide these blueprints to other people to show, hey, this is starting your own business or doing something for yourself and taking control of your finances, on your own and not relying on somebody else to employ you. That's not something that's reserved for the small percentage of people. Like, all these people who have done it are normal. They're just like you and me, and they just made different decisions. And these are the type of decisions that they made. And so being able to show that was, the hope was to be able to motivate people to choose themselves. And now it's formed and morphed over time to trying to help people.
Are you talking about your vision or your mission?
Yeah, well, just the show,
or the actions.
The show itself.
Show. Okay.
A lot of the interviews are still there and they're still happening, but now I'm instilling a lot more kind of motivation and resilience. So because you can get motivated and be like, yeah, no, I really want to start my own thing, and then you dig into it and you're going and going and going, but you hit that first roadblock and you try to veer and you're trying to find your way back, but it's easy to kind of fall back into your old habits and old rituals where you were comfortable before. You weren't satisfied, but you were comfortable. The bills were getting paid and everything.
Yeah. And
so why pursue that? And especially when roadblocks start coming up. So what I want to do
why
is
endure through the pain?
Exactly. And how? If you don't know how, and if you've never had to do it before, especially for something that's not necessary, then what's the road path? What's the map look like to be able to get to the other side of it?
That's a good point. You remember Sebastian's got his band, and he's going to be playing some acoustical. Now, I want to give a shout out. Honestly, Matt, I'm going to tell you a little story. You can understand this and appreciate this probably. Doing your shows, sometimes you don't really know who's listening. You're not really sure. You get feedback from your hardcore, diehard people.
Yep.
But then outside of that, you're like, I don't know who's listening or not. So I want to give a shout out to all of our listeners out there who, they check our shows out, maybe not every weekend or maybe not every week or whatever, but, when they get a chance, I just love that. I love connecting with people, and I love being able to branch out and talk with folks about, what they're working on and the creative stuff that they're doing. So this is Sebastian Messer, everybody. And he's going to be playing, what, you having, you going to be free playing, or what are you going to be playing right now? Okay, so this is Sebastian Messer. He's got a band called Krieger, and I was informed last night. I thought he does, just nothing but heavy metal. He's like, we'll change it up for you. So here we go, Sebastian Messer. Wow, Bass, thank you so much.
Very nice.
I really enjoy him playing live music.
There's always been a special place in my heart, especially for acoustic guitar. Like I think it just brings me back to going out camping in Colorado and stuff with everyone around a campfire. There's something mystical and magical that happens when there's fire, and then there's like acoustic music that's happening at the same time. That just really, if you're already out of that city life and everything, but then that really is like, it's entrancing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. I think we live in a mostly manufactured world here in the third, not third world country. We're in the first world country here, but we live in mostly a manufactured world. Processed foods, our jobs are processed. Where we live, everything is fabricated, and it's just kind of nice to be able to disconnect and reconnect with nature sometimes. So just imagine sitting around at a campfire, listening to some music, maybe telling some ghost stories, or having some some s'mores or something.
No, it's food for the soul, and I couldn't agree more about the level of manufacturedness. And don't get me wrong, I love my air conditioning, especially down here in Georgia. But there's at where we're at today, we've gone so far in the direction of creature comforts and like removing ourselves from the difficulties that you don't have to endure hard things, like things that really challenge you if you don't want to. Like there are relatively easy pathways to avoid those things. It's actually interesting because if you think about it, like people know how to do that naturally. People naturally know how to avoid those things, but they have to be not necessarily taught, but but prodded to try things that are not natural and not that challenge them and push them to do something that's greater and expands their world more than they ever knew that was even possible. Because we're all sticking back in that safe kind of place.
I want to pull up something. I really like that. But this morning I shared. Have you ever heard of Kerwin Ray?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I was somebody threw his name at me a few months ago, and so I checked him out a couple videos and stuff.
Well, I shared one of his videos this morning, and he was talking. Oh gosh, I'm not getting any reception right now. But the gist of the video and the conversation was a question that people ask is, "What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing?" And the guest that he had, I wish I could think of his name, but the guest that he had, he said that when we have things that are discomfortable or uncomfortable to us that cause discomfort, those things help guide us towards our purpose, because when we're doing the things that, like our higher calling, you don't necessarily, it might be uncomfortable, but it's not of discomfort. It's something that, you understand that, okay, I have to do this work. I have to get through this, I have to walk barefooted over this gravel to get over to the grass. kind of thing. And I thought it was interesting because he was talking about motivation as well. And have you ever noticed when you have a goal in mind, and you're so intensely focused on that goal, you don't really need a whole lot of motivation. It's easy to stay focused on it. Mm-hmm. You only need motivation when, like I said earlier, things happen, mm-hmm. And you kind of get off track, or we kind of slip into that, because I've never known anybody that said, oh, I'm purposely going to derail my goals.
Exactly.
I'm purposely going to do drugs or, mm-hmm. Become an alcoholic or something like that.
I think that's a great example and a great point that you bring up, because the first thing is when you have a goal, mm-hmm. the goal is your end state, right? That's like, this is the situation, this is the world that exists that I would like to be in, mm-hmm. right? So when we do that, when we're making goals, we're making that compelling future. And
it's almost like you're imagining it, right?
Right, yeah. And then that's the best way. And when you're visualizing it and you can see yourself there, there's an emotional attachment. And when you have that, and that's why it's important for you to develop your goals. Somebody else can't develop your goals because you're not going to have that emotional attachment to it. And it goes back, I think Tony Robbins may have been the one that said it, there's a difference between being pulled and being pushed. Like if you're being pushed to accomplish something, it can go to a certain point, but once you start hitting those barriers and everything that they're coming up, and you're going to get deflected left and right, and it's going to be very difficult. But if you're being pulled, if that goal is pulling you, mm-hmm. then it's an entirely different situation, and you're going to find ways to hurdle those obstacles and move around them. Yeah.
Or one of the things I like is I might not have all the resources, but I'm resourceful. Mm-hmm. If you can learn how to become resourceful. And, let me do a station ID real quick. I can't believe it's already almost a quarter hour. You're listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And I'm just going to do a quick shout out. We've got all of our listeners out there. If you like what you're listening to, please consider making a monetary donation to WRUU.org. We have our big annual pledge drive coming up later on in the year, but you can go on there anytime, and even if it's just $1 or $10 or whatever level you want to pledge, you go onto the WRUU.org. You can click on the donate button. You can make a one-time donation, or you can set up a monthly donation. And what it does, where the money goes, is right back here into the station. It helps pay for equipment, and it helps pay for like our rent and our electricity and those kind of things. What it doesn't pay for, we are all volunteers. So nobody here is paid. We all volunteer our time because we love what we're doing. And we love being, part of the community here in Savannah and the greater, because, actually last week I didn't realize this, but we had people listening pretty much like all over the U.S. And, I was like, wow, this is kind of neat.
So, got some reach.
But yeah, if you're listening and you like what you're hearing, if you like the shows, check us out. Please consider a donation. So thank you. All right. So I want to talk about, one of the things that you, with the Burn Your Boats podcast, your show, mm-hmm. you talk with people in their process. I do the same kind of thing mm-hmm. with my show. I talk with people in their process. One of the things that I notice is that, and we've talked about this before, about shovels and jeans, right? I like using the word shovels and jeans because back in the gold mining days, the people that got rich were mostly the people selling supplies mm-hmm. to the miners, and the people that are like, oh yeah, the people for transportation, and the folks selling that dream.
Yep.
Not the folks out there digging every day and making
absolutely.
Making enough to pay for their lodging and their food and and their shovels and jeans, right? So what is something that you have picked up this last year or so that you've been doing your show that's been kind of like a eureka moment, or kind of like an aha moment? Because you have, let's give some background. You've been in the Army. Mm-hmm. You teach resilience training.
The irony of the conversation we were just having is I have a class that I'm teaching, like a 3-hour block that I'm teaching this Thursday that's specifically on goal setting.
Goal setting is a great topic. But you teach these things, and so you train other soldiers how they can implement a process, mm-hmm. right? So what's something that you've learned this last year that you're like, I hadn't thought about it like that?
Well, it's interesting. One of the most powerful and consistent themes, I guess, that I've picked up from all of the conversations I had is the sense of ignorance kind of is bliss.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you want to avoid the paralysis by analysis. So if you're looking to
Overthinking.
exactly,
Yeah.
if you're looking to do something new and that's exciting, of course you want to do your research. You want to understand the field that you're going into, but you don't want to get so bogged down in all the minutia that actually prevents you from pursuing your goal. Because most of the people, I would say 90% of the people that I talk to on my show explicitly said that if they would have known how difficult it was to get to where they were when they started, they would have never done it. And
That's kind of daunting.
It can be. It absolutely can be. I take that. I've done that on a small scale throughout most of my adult life with little things, like even going for a run. Like if I get the idea, I'm like, I want to go for a run. And if I sit there and I start thinking about it while I'm getting ready, like I'm looking for my shorts, I'm looking for my shoes, and then I'm getting ready and I'm tying them. Like I need to throw everything on and be out the door and just get my feet moving on the sidewalk.
And you call that paralysis through analysis?
Yes. Yep.
That's interesting because overthinking can cripple action.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the same as fear. You
Yeah.
know, like, and you can have, it's just about what your reaction to information is,
right?
And it's so with fear, if you're afraid of doing something, what does that spur you to do? Does that spur you to do more research so that way you understand it better? Does it spur you to practice? Like a lot of people have issues with public speaking, and really, I love the example of public speaking. While it's kind of cliche and overplayed when it comes to fears, it's because it is so rampant a fear amongst people, and because really no matter what field that you're operating in, if you want to progress, your ability to communicate with a lot of people at one time it's crucial. It's paramount. You're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
So if you want to better your opportunities, if you want to better your exposure, because just like you said, just even on the show, when the reach is going out, like you don't know who's listening.
Yeah.
And so if you're closing off that opportunity so that way you feel safe, then you don't even know the opportunities that you're not getting because you're not putting yourself out there.
I think that kind of reminds me of an echo chamber.
Oh, absolutely.
If you have, I don't know, let's say the same 5 people that you talk with, and that those are the only 5 people you talk with, and they all have the same, mindset, and they just bellow back what you're spewing. You have an echo chamber, and I think that people get caught up in groupthink, and that creates that echo chamber.
Absolutely.
And when folks are not willing to, when folks are not willing to have some kind of common ground. Actually, I want to, talking about that, I want to share something I wrote this morning. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but I thought about this morning because I was thinking, okay, wow, there's so much garbage out there right now. I see leftists and I see right wing people, and they're just, a little obnoxious sometimes to me.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. So this is something I thought about this morning when I got up and went out. It is not enough to challenge authority. It is not enough to challenge the status quo. In order to make a lasting change, one must not only challenge the status quo, but one must also implement a viable alternative solution to the opposition and then live it. In a world of sales and manipulations, what's in front of me, in the forefront of the person's mind, is not the collective good for all. In order to overcome this broken philosophy, one must live the life and sell others on it through example.
That's exactly it. And I mean, you could take that and apply it to every aspect of the national politics that's happening right now.
Yeah.
But I think the important aspect, the 2 very important aspects of that are embedded in your message are, one, don't just complain. Right? Like, don't just say that this isn't good. Like we have a homeless problem.
Right.
Okay, that's the good thing about that we should not take for granted is that we can agree.
Yeah.
Like, okay, no matter who you are, like, okay, we don't like the idea that we have fellow humans that are living without proper shelter. Yeah. I think that we can all agree that we don't like that.
I mean, on the drive in, we had to come around the square, and I see tourists and I see tour guides and I see affluent people, and there's a guy sitting right next to a tree, and I'm not sure that he was homeless, but he appeared to be out of doors, and I just thought, wow, here we are, and you see that all over, everywhere in America you can see that, but especially in Savannah, you can see affluence next to poverty,
side by side, Yep. Within a glance, without you even having to move.
You don't have to even move the block.
Exactly.
And I thought about that. I was like, so yeah, I mean, it's how do we challenge that, and then how do we take action?
Yeah, and so you identify that, and so I mean, it's a crucial thing to kind of break that kind of stuff down when you're having a conversation.
Problem.
Exactly, and
acknowledge. And that's not just a social, economic, like a macro view, micro as well.
I know, absolutely, and that's so. If you and I are if I'm trying to have a conversation with you, it's a very difficult thing for people, especially once you start getting into kind of the social policies and politics and stuff like that, and you start and it goes to exactly what you said when you're trapped in echo chambers, and there's the really weird political groupthink in the sense that once let's say that I really support gun rights. I'm an avid gun user. I think that's important for protection. I understand the historical value, but I'm also pro-choice. There's not a place for me to go hang out when it comes to politics. No. If you have this one thought, then the rest of your thoughts have to go align.
The labels,
with all this. Exactly. It goes in with and it's weird, but I think that we're getting to a place where nuance is starting to come back. I hope.
I don't know, man. I think it is to some degree because I have some friends that I'm able to talk with openly, and be able to have a civil discussion, and we can agree to disagree. And then I have other friends or associates that they are not. They'll I'll give an example. Like with right wing and conservatives and left wing, idealists or whatever, liberals. They'll say, well, if you're not with me, you're against me. Well, that's not necessarily true. I don't like this one thing. That doesn't mean that I think you are a bad person.
No, absolutely.
But I see that on both sides. And then, I also see, and it's a big thing right now on both sides of the aisle, is finding a reason to be upset and angry and offended.
Outrage culture
and cancel culture. And, instead of saying, okay, well, I'll give an example with Trump's budget proposal to eliminate the arts. He's been trying to do it the last couple of years. In the last couple of years, Congress said, no, we're going to increase the budget or whatever. And then you get people that just explode over it. They're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do if we don't have libraries? And what are we going to do if we don't have this? And what are we going to do if we have that? It's all maneuvering. It's all pecking order and positioning and peacocking, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this because it's going to tear at your heartstrings because I want to actually get this other thing. In politics, I don't understand why people don't see through the echo chamber, and say, okay, well, what's the real agenda? Right. What's the real, desire here?
Well, even for me, so I got really wrapped up in politics. I started getting interested and motivated after.
If I can interject, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because to me, it's a great example of groupthink, and it's a great example of saying, okay, well, how does this actually affect my daily life and my goals?
That was exactly what I was going to talk about, was where those things intersect.
I'm glad we were thinking alike.
No, absolutely.
Here we are in echo chamber. We're creating our own echo chamber here right now. No, I'm just kidding.
The interesting part is, for me, from my perspective, is that, so we were talking the intersection of where the big political movements are happening and how it impacts my life.
Yeah.
And if you really sit down and you take the time to look at it, it probably doesn't.
Right.
It probably doesn't actually affect your life in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
And if the government were to get rid of an entire program, it doesn't mean those things go away. It just shifts the responsibility away from the government to the people who want to be involved with it. And so that's where I'm at. And I would rather I invested so much time into following politics and listening to what this guy's saying and learning about these policies and what does that really mean? And exactly like you said, like what does that mean and what are the implications? Like, okay, this sounds really good, but then that leads to this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, no matter how much knowledge and information I gathered and collected, it's the same thing as everything else. The more that you learn about it, the more you realize that you don't know anything.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, even as I continued to gain knowledge and gain perspective, it was so irrelevant to me and what I'm doing.
It's almost just spent energy.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
You know, and I'll give you an example. I used to keep up with the news every day. Every day I used to read different. I used to read conservative. I used to read liberal, and what I thought were kind of neutral media outlets. Major,
Good luck.
yeah, major, newspapers. And what I noticed was, this maybe some kind of like conspiracy theory thing, but there was this video that came out, and it was talking where the news reporters all over in different little towns through this one media conglomerate had the same opening line.
Mm-hmm.
They said the same opening line.
And it's actually that's not an abnormality.
Yeah.
There's actually I've seen those cuts after a large event will happen, and they'll use the same exact verbiage. If they're not using the same, sometimes it's exactly like you said, like the first line is word for word exactly the same.
Yeah, it was exactly the same. And it opened my eyes to think, okay, well, why would local news media be publishing that? And then, doing academic research and learning how to do academic research, one of the first things they teach you is to look for credible sources, to look for plagiarism, to make sure that, it's not being plagiarized, that kind of thing. Also to check out like the relevancy of, the research. Okay. So is big X corporation publishing this, or is this like an independent, research type thing? And it just made me think, okay, well, if the media has this power, and I'm just using general terms here, it's not just news, right? We do it as a people and a public. We do it with each other. We share things, we share knowledge, we tweet, we put stuff on Facebook, and then you think, okay, well, how is this influencing what I'm actually doing on my daily basis? Is me seeing that meme about the cats going to help me during the day, or is it going to just, like I get a little chuckle out of it or whatever? So, it kind of goes back to what you're saying about how much impact does it have on my daily life? And I feel consuming like that, consuming, we want to, have something that's going to tickle our brain. We want something that's going to be clever or funny or interesting or whatever. And, and I'm not really sure what that buzzing noise is. It's kind of a weird, buzzing noise coming from upstairs, but, I think what happens is that we see what we want to see. We look for things that we want to look for. So, like if I say, "Oh, I like this" or whatever, I'm going to look for things that are going to reinforce that.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
my mind is going to just literally look for stuff.
It doesn't happen consciously. It happens very unconsciously. It's a confirmation bias, and so you're just looking for the information.
That's exactly a confirmation bias.
And it's even when the interesting part about confirmation bias is so confirmation bias, the way that most people understand it, and it accurately is that you're going to search things out that align with your current beliefs and strengthen your current beliefs, and you will avoid the topics that counter them. But an interesting little bit more depth into it is that not only do you do that, but when you encounter those, just like you said, when you're doing the academic research, you will find justifications to prop up the legitimacy of information from a less known
or discredit what you disagree with.
Exactly. Yeah. Or disregard, like, oh, well, that was written by this organization. And so even if there was that's an interesting thing. Yeah. This is an interesting situation.
We've got to take a break.
Yeah.
So let me do the break. Sebastian, do you mind playing too? I'm going to I'm going to play this station ID. Can't believe it's already been a half an hour, Matt.
It's what we do.
Yep.
LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
This portion of WRUU-LP Savannah Soundings programming is brought to you by listeners and the Ships of the Sea Museum. The William Scarborough House, located on MLK Boulevard, is home to the Ships of the Sea Museum and is the earliest example of the use of Greek Revival architecture in a domestic setting in the South. Celebrate 200 years of the William Scarborough House. Find out more about Ships of the Sea Museum at the website shipsofthesea.org.
This is Sebastian Messer, everybody. All right, that was short and sweet. So, all right, Matt. So you were saying right before the break, we were talking about that echo chamber, and
Yeah, we were talking about something. I was on a roll, and
yeah, I'm
It went-
sorry,
no,
cut
it's
it
okay.
out,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
we? Didn't we? Okay, so we were talking about reinforcing both crediting and discrediting things.
right, and the confirmation bias.
Yeah.
One of the things that just kind of brings it back to where we were at in the beginning of the conversation is when we're talking about those news outlets that are creating a shared narrative.
Well, and I was just using news. I mean,
No,
like
no,
we
for sure.
all do it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, like
And
I'm
it's-
just
well-
talking about like because we all
Yeah.
become like our own media distribution.
No, absolutely. No,
Through
and,
social
and
media
we
and
all
stuff like
we
that.
all own our own brand, and so and then a lot of times we are more comfortable. Almost all times we are more comfortable when we're able to associate our brand with there's comfort in numbers, and so that's when we get into the echo chamber. Like, oh, well, all these people believe this, and I'm there with them. I think that there's this huge value and large marketing companies completely understand this, and it goes back to creating that compelling future.
Yeah.
And so do news outlets. They want to create that compelling future. They want eyeballs. And so they're going to create a story. They're going to create the narrative, or they're going to hone the narrative in such a way that's going to have people listen and be more engaged than they would be otherwise. And I think the importance here is to create your own compelling future, because the more passively that you're going through life and you're just kind of receiving this information and you're listening to like, you know, your little echo chamber of friends, and you're listening to the news and you're just receiving all of this information passively while you're going through your work in your 9 to 5, the more likely you are to fall victim or fall prey to other people's narratives and just kind of go align with them. Whereas, and again, that goes back to like the push, that you're being pushed. You're being pushed to think along this line. You're being pushed to think along these political lines. And when you can do that for yourself, and you can do it in a way, you find those things that intrinsically motivate you. You know, that you actually get you excited from the core of who you are. And I mean, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of self-awareness and for you to understand your values and what matters to you, and then to be able to look forward. I think one of the important things that we kind of touched on earlier, you talked about drugs and alcohol and these other things, these obstacles
Nobody
that come
ever,
in the way.
nobody ever says I want to do, I'm going to grow up and be a drug addict.
Yeah, but
know?
This is the interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people do, which I think is extremely beneficial, is a lot of people create goals, right? You'll create a goal, maybe you even write it down, and you put yourself in that higher percentage category of people that actually accomplish their goals, which is great. But again, my whole shtick is what do you do when you're in pursuit of that goal, and then
Things
stuff starts
don't
to hit the fan.
hit the right button.
Exactly.
Things are like off. What do you do when life happens?
Yeah. What do you do? And so
I'll share something like a tool that I learned. when I used to work for the university. We would ask students, and same thing, we would help them with their narrative, right? By asking them questions like, 3 years from now, things are not going okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want me to tell you? What do you want to hear from me to help you get back on track? And they would think about it, and, a lot of it went back to the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? Doing this for myself, doing this for my kids, doing this for my family, doing this because I want a better career, and we would revisit that with students. And I had thousands of students that graduated, that I helped graduate over the years that I worked in the university system. And I can tell you that the ones that quit and that came back were the ones that were more dedicated. Because, these were adult learners. They were average of 35, 36 years old, so they're not right out of high school. But I think it's even just as important for kids that are just coming out of high school. It's not just an age group. It's everybody.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's humans.
And so learning yourself is difficult, I think. It's more than just like, oh, these are the things I like to do or I enjoy doing. It's like, okay, well, how do I craft that future? How do I build that future?
Well, and part of it is crafting the exact opposite,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes back to knowing you. Like, okay, what are the things that I really enjoy doing that are not that do not put me on that path?
Yeah.
What
are my time wasters?
Right. Do I enjoy my
You don't want to know what mine
substances?
is? Video games. I spent so much time playing video games, and video games are not. There's nothing wrong with video games. I like video games, but I can tell you, I can spend an hour playing a game, and it's like nothing.
Yeah.
It's no time at all.
Don't even think about it.
And I've cut out playing video games for the most part. Like recently, excuse me, I tried to get back into playing online, and I just found myself like saying, "Oh, I need to write this book.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do this or I need to do that." And so there's a lot of little time wasters out there that we can fall into.
Oh, there's a ton. And you can start, with the huge aspects of things. But I mean, like for me, it's Netflix. It shows. I will find. I just rewatched the entire series of Dexter in like 2 months.
Wow.
And that's 8 seasons.
Wow.
And so
That's a lot of time.
it's a lot of time. And so
Now, was this like everything's done for the day and I'm going to relax and watch this? Or is this kind of like your escape for, like, okay, well, I'm going to hang out and do this tonight?
it was so.
Or was it kind of both?
What I tried to do was I would have it on because I had already watched it, and so in my head I'm like, this is a really long show, and I can throw it on in the background, and I don't have to be fully engaged because I know what happens, and so now I can use this time to write and to develop my training program, and so, but what would happen a lot of times is that I would get wrapped up back in the story of the show, and while like working on like a puzzle. Okay. And like so at the end of it, I'm like, oh cool, how many people do puzzles? This is like a mentally positive aspect of life. However, when I just blew in a whole evening worth of work I could have been accomplishing on these two things, like, okay, that's not good. That's not that
productive
amount of time invested into it is.
Did you feel guilty?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, immensely.
What did you do about it?
So, I started to rededicate. I would block off time, and I would set it up in a way where I'd have to earn it. Like, okay, before I turn it on.
So you change it into a reward system.
Exactly. And for me, that's where a lot of people get mixed up, because I'll start explaining, like we were talking about earlier, the intrinsically valued and motivated items. So,
would you mind breaking that down for us, Mr. Lostaglia? Intrinsic versus extrinsic.
Of course.
What are those?
So, when you're intrinsically motivated to do something, it's something that brings you joy from the inside. So I like to use the example of like playing an instrument, like Sebastian does for us over here. And when you play an instrument and you're producing this beautiful sound, does that bring you joy? Does the fact that you accomplish and you learn how to do it, and when you're playing it, does it bring you a sense of calm or a sense of excitement? Whatever, does it bring you
what
a
value
positive,
does it bring?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in it of itself, what does it bring? Just doing it. Like, could you do it alone in your bedroom, never talk to anybody about it, and be 10 times happier than you were before you started playing?
Mm-hmm.
If so, then you're intrinsically motivated to do it. If your motivation is your mom and dad said that you're going to play violin and you're going to get a scholarship to do this, and so they put you in hours and hours every week of training of lessons to learn how to play the violin, and every time that you do well, they like you win the competition for your state or whatever, and they're like, okay, now we're gonna go take you on a vacation, and every lesson that you do well, like, you're getting rewarded, and every lesson that you do poorly, you're getting punished. That's that extrinsic. That's when you're being pushed from the outside.
Yeah.
Those things do not have to be mutually exclusive.
Right.
So I'm intrinsically motivated to build a training program to help people overcome those obstacles that come up when they're pursuing their goals. But however, part of the process to continue my success in that direction is to build in extrinsic motivation and goals as parts of it, as subcategories of that. Like, okay, I need to get this part done. I'm really motivated to get out and to teach this to people, but I can't get out and teach it to people and to provide this unless I have the thing built. And the building it is not exactly the most exciting thing to me. So I have to find ways to motivate myself by exactly like you said, like creating the reward and punishment system. Punishments haven't been installed yet, but so I try to go off rewards.
Well, I don't like the punishment side of it. I don't think anybody does, but I try to look at the positive side of, okay, well, if I've earned this, two things I want to share with you on that. Have you listened to or read Simon Sinek's Start With Why?
I've not.
Stop what you're doing and go listen to that.
All right, man, I gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, like, leave the show right now.
We will continue this after.
We'll pick this up at another time.
I've heard some people give me some excerpts of it, but I've not read it.
So, I'm doing the Books and Brews thing. We're doing the fundraiser again for the Ronald McDonald Charities. And in doing so, I reached out to Cecilia Tran because she has a running group and she has a reading group. And I was like, this would be really cool to kind of merge, and have them come out. So she started a leadership for readers or something like that kind of group. And so basically the same kind of things we've been doing, like with reading the different books and listening to the seminars and those kind of things. But she's doing that locally. And so the book that they're reading is called Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And I picked up the audiobook. Now, we'll preface it. It's from like 2008, 2009. Okay, so some of the stuff that he talks about, it's already happened, obviously. But it was really interesting because he was talking about the what's versus the whys. And to break it down, like, one of the best examples he gave was Apple versus Microsoft. So you had Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak with Apple, and you had Bill Gates, and I can't remember the other guy's name with Microsoft. But Bill Gates, not really a well-spoken person, kind of awkward socially. He wanted to bring a PC to everybody, right? He wanted to get this operating system out there so that people could do this. Jobs did the same thing. He wanted to do the same thing, get a PC in every home, and that kind of thing. Gates brought Windows and then developed different office utilities that mirrored physical office things, like typing and, spreadsheets and those kind of things. And Jobs, they brought the personal computer, the Apple. And he talked about when Jobs was with Apple, he always wanted to innovate in different industries, and he wanted to revolutionize things. Gates wasn't so much a revolutionary, but he had, a revolutionary idea. He brought a revolutionary, life-changing product, I think, and the difference between like Microsoft and Apple today, in my opinion, and listening to Simon Sinek when he's talking about this, and bear in mind it's like 10 or 11 years old, something like that now, is if you look at what Apple did, they came in, they made a home computer, made it more affordable. They came back and they, pretty much, they didn't invent the smartphone. They didn't invent the MP3 player. They didn't invent those things. But what they did was they started with their why, right? And so they, instead of like with Microsoft, because he brings up the example of the iPod versus the Zune. The Zune might have been a technologically advanced item over the iPod. Might have had more memory, might have had this, might have had that, but nobody bought the Zune. The iPod was like, okay, when the music industry was like flipping out because people were live streaming and, basically pirating music, they didn't know how to control it. They didn't know what to do. They were like, oh my God, we don't know how to sell music anymore, right? So Apple came in and said, you know what? We're gonna create iTunes, and we're gonna do this for people because it fits what they're trying to do. It fits their life. It makes their life easier, and it makes their day easier, And like I recently, this last year, I changed over to an iPhone because I wanted something smaller, and for one specific reason. I wanted to be able to use a program called Scrivener on my phone and sync up with my tablet and my laptop. So now I have an iPad Air, and I have an iPhone, and I have a PC. Like I have a laptop. All three of them use Scrivener. I use Dropbox to sync it up, and it's convenient for me because I wanted to be able to use this app, but it's only available on iStore, the Apple Store, the Apple Store, whatever. I'm still kind of learning the lingo.
Oh, my wife would be so happy. I know if she's listening right now, she's like, yeah.
Shout out.
When are you going to get that iPhone?
You want to do a shout out to your wife?
Of course, yeah. Yasmin, I love you very much.
There you go.
I hope that you found the station and you're listening. You'll be able to catch this live. If
Like,
not, that's all good,
We'll play it on the rerun. But, the thing that I learned from listening to that was starting with why. I mean, for me, I do different events. I do different fundraisers. And I volunteer. So I do it because I like helping other people. I enjoy helping other people. I don't do it because I feel like it's going to leverage me into a better position.
Right.
And I see that a lot. I see that a lot where people will try to leverage or position, or jockey for, whatever. Oh, if I get to know this person, then that'll be a step closer. I don't do it for that because I really don't like phony people.
And it's there is a way there's a way to acknowledge the reality that you're like, I just met somebody that could change, that could be my foot in the door to this whole spectrum of people and operations.
You know how that happens for me? They actually come to me and tell me like something that like, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. And I try to go into a relationship with folks just as a way to get to know people.
Yeah.
I just want to get to know them.
No, absolutely. And I'm not
No,
trying to,
I know what you're saying.
Justify.
I'm adding to what you're saying because I'm right there with you. Like eye to eye right here. I'm like, I'm right here. Because, there have been a couple of people that, I've really been surprised that they had a genuine interest in my best interest. And the same thing, like, because there's so many shysters out there, right? Yeah. We got to do a station break. You're listening to... I just said there's so many shysters out there. We got to do a station break. That has nothing to do with the conversation. Everybody, you're listening to the Adam Messer Show here on WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And when I say shysters, I mean there are a lot of people out there that they will try to get to know you because they feel like it's going to do something for them, And there are also a lot of people out there that are on the opposite side of that spectrum that they feel like, oh, well, this is a person I'd like to get to know, and maybe I can help them, maybe they can help me, but I'm not going to have any expectations going into that.
Well, the interesting part, and the thing that I always try to keep in mind is that everybody is always looking out for their own self-interest. you do it in a
We all
way
do.
that is selfless.
Well,
Because in some aspects, because you
Yeah.
enjoy, because volunteering and helping people
it gives me joy.
brings exactly. It brings back that intrinsic
That's
joy.
a reward for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
it's
and it goes back to the relationships versus transactions that we've talked a lot about.
Absolutely.
You know, being a relationship focused person, and when I listened to the Simon Sinek's, Start With Why, it clicked in my head, and that's why I tell you, go listen to that, because it's like a 4 or 5 hour audiobook, but I think it will help jingle those little parts that are kind of moving around with your where you're at right now. The second one that I think you need to listen to, like right after, is Pat Flynn, and there are 2 of them that I think you need to listen to. And I'm gonna send these to you. But Pat Flynn, I've listened to him a couple of times now. How to be better at almost everything is one of them.
That's so funny because I talked. that's like a theme in our household where someone will do something silly and we'll just look at each other and say like, "Be better, just be better."
And that was one of them. Where is the other one? And he has a new book called Superfans, and he talks a lot about connecting with your audience. So those 2. The reason why I say the Pat Flynn with the how to be better at almost anything is because when we were talking earlier about being able to not get mired up in the details and being able to not overthink things, he talks a lot, and this kind of resonated with me, about being a generalist. And being a generalist is you are good at a lot of different things, but you're not just one thing, right? And he talks about being able to do stuff like 80, like you get to 80, 90%, like the good to great level. And then you move on and you make complementary skill sets. They stack, like, so for me, doing the radio show, interviewing people, that helps me with interviewing people for the newspaper, helps me with talking with editors and writers and other show hosts and things like that. And it's just one skill set. Am I the best radio show host in the world? No. But am I good enough to kind of get people to listen to? Yeah. I'll put it there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll put you a couple notches above, but we'll take it.
Well, but I think that was one of the things for me, is like just listening to you talk about like translating and finishing that program, getting the nuts and bolts done with your program that you've been working on. It is the details. It is okay, well, I have to make a product. But then after you make that product, it's like, okay, well, what do I do with it? And if you don't start off with a strong why, the reason, intrinsic or extrinsic or whatever, obviously we'd all love to be a millionaire,
right, of course.
Sell like, man, I've got this new program and I'm the next Tony Robbins, and that'd be so awesome. But if you don't have, if you don't have that why, if you don't have that, that translation from your heart to their heart, being able to speak to them, because it's not everybody's going to be in your tribe, right?
No.
Not everybody's going to get you, or they're not going to understand you. And honestly, I mean, I don't think that would be a good thing.
No, I would rather have
that would create a huge echo chamber.
I would rather have 100 people that are diehard behind the message and that I'm actually helping than 100,000 people that show up and take no action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The interesting thing about the why, and when it comes down to like the super basic human level of things, there was actually an experiment that was done, like a social science experiment that was done where a gal sat in line at a library, and she had some papers in her hands, about 5 pages, and she would go to the person that was in the people that were in front of her, and they would always wait until the line built up to be like 5, 6, 7 people long.
Okay.
And she'd walk up to the front of the line and say, "Hey, I have 5 pages that I need to copy. Can I cut you? Like, can I do that?" And so she went about it 2 ways. So one of them was that, like, "Hey, can I make these copies?" And about 30% of the time, they said, "Yeah, sure, that's fine. Go ahead." Just flat on its face, just by asking the question. So one, asking the question already puts you on the playing field, but the amount of improvement, the increased odds of getting what you want by adding a justification, by adding a why, was huge. So she would say, because I'm in a really big rush, I have an appointment I need to get to, and then it shot up to like
take my kid to the dentist.
exactly,
Yeah.
and so it jumped up to like 70-80%.
Yeah.
And then so this was something in my head. I'm a simple-minded man, right? And so I hear that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's neat and that's good to know. She took it a step further and added. She went back up and she justified it again, but with a completely circular logic. So she went back up and said, "Hey, I have 5 pages that I need to copy. Can I cut you because I have 5 pages that I need to copy?"
Yeah.
And she had the same positive results that she had when she gave like a reason.
Just a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just that word, because like
Yeah.
as humans,
We want to know.
we're looking for
An answer,
that
yeah.
reason. We're looking for a because. And it doesn't even have to be that strong. But that goes back to your point that like if you make that compelling future and you make something that's strong and draws people in, then you're gonna be able to build that tribe. And that's what I want to do. I want to build a community, and I want to build a tribe of people that are excited and motivated and want to support each other in that way, and support each other in a way that helps the other person out, but is built on the idea that me helping you out actually helps me too. Like
Yeah.
because we're in that community.
Yeah.
We know. We were
We
talking
kinda
about
build it all
mastermind
together.
groups yesterday.
Yeah.
And it goes directly to that.
We're going to touch on mastermind groups at the 4 o'clock hour. Bass, do you mind playing this out? Everybody, you listen to WRUU, LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. This is Sebastian Messer.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.